Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Snetterton, where it is time to go Ginetta racing at last. Our Ginetta drivers have been sitting around for most of the day, having qualified this morning, awaiting their races. We're going to round out day one of this British GT weekend with 2 Ginetta races and 3 different championships on show. We start, first of all, with the Ginetta GT Championship and GT Academy Championship for the Ginetta G56-based series. And after that, we'll have 20 minutes of Ginetta Junior Championship action, a busy grid, and an always exciting prospect ending the day with some Ginetta Junior racing. The cars lining up on the grid ahead of their green flag lap. They're bunched very closely together on the grid because for this series, the cars have a rolling start. So the Lotus safety car is waiting to tow them around the lap. And after that, we will go racing for 20 minutes. Pole position within the GT Championship element of the grid is held by William Antrobus, who drives for Elite Motorsport. He's got one of the Orion SPR drivers alongside, though, that white, orange and blue number 31 of Felix Livesey, sharing the front row on what is a slightly bolstered grid these days within the Ginetta GT Championship. 11 GT Championship cars, followed by a similar number of GT Academy cars. They'll have their own separate start a little bit further back. It is Luis Bailica for Want to Race who has pole position, and he leads within his element of the GT Academy Championship as well, after what's been a pretty dominant season, really. Connor Blackburn lines up alongside, and Connor is going to be gunning for, he hopes, a race victory. Those two in qualifying separated by about 0.3 of a second in Luis Bailica's favour. So that is how things stand on the grid as we now move into the final 3 events of what's been a busy season, a busy summer particularly for the Ginetta Racing Championships. They had their Ginetta G-Fest, which took place up at Croft a month and a half or so ago. The juniors have been out to Zandvoort since then for a trio of races around the, for now at least, host circuit of the Dutch Grand Prix. And they all now reconvene on these British GT weekends for the final 3 events of the season. This is the grid then, starting with the Ginetta GTs. I've mentioned the front row already. Antrobus alongside Felix Livesey. The pair of them separated by just under 1/10 of a second after this morning's qualifying session. Harry Gamble lines up third alongside Vladislav Tomanchuk with a really good qualifying effort for the elite driver. Jamie Cordell and Louis Darling share the 3rd row of the grid, ahead of former GT Academy frontrunner James Nicholas. He's got Alex Duncan for company on row 4. Both of those lining up within the AM category, subclasses to go through within these championships. We'll get to that a little bit later on. Cameron Pratt-Thompson and Elliot Foster complete the top 10, whilst Lucy Hodgson for Orion SPR is the last of the GT Championship drivers on the grid. Let me move on into GT Academy, where, as I said, it is the German driver, Luis Bailica, who has the pole position ahead of Connor Blackburn. Will Fallon and Tom Walker share the 2nd row of the grid, and Joseph Osteltov a little bit further back than you might expect. 4th of the GT Academy class drivers, 5th on the GT Academy grid, with Ian Beaumont alongside. 4th row for GT Academy shared by Ben Wiseman and Ash Young, with Faye Goff and Alan Wright next in line. Damien Duffy will complete the grid of Ginettas heading into this first Ginetta race of the weekend. So, championship-wise, quite a lot of ground to cover. I'll try and get through as much of this as I can in the final part of this green flag lap. Within the Ginetta GT Championship itself, after those pesky drop scores, 2 drop scores are calculated, it's Cameron Pratt-Thompson who has the championship lead. Cameron Pratt-Thompson, who arrives here on 212 points, is 8 points clear of William Antrobus. Antrobus is on pole position. Pratt-Thompson is only 9th, so immediately there is the prospect of that changing hands by the end of this race. Harry Gamble is 3rd, but he is 29 points further back. So Pratt-Thompson and William Antrobus, the clear front runners at the moment in the GT Championship. Then within GT Academy, we've got the GTA class, which is led by Tom Walker. He is about 25 points clear of Joe Ostoltov. And then within the rookie element of the grid, Luis Bailica on actually exactly the same number of points as Tom Walker, with an even bigger gap over in Bowman. So the closer of the championship battles is within the GT Championship. The cars at the front of the field, and there's a lot of work to be done here for the championship leader Cameron Pratt-Thompson if he is to hold on to the championship lead. We'll keep an eye on the progress of car 37 as the race gets underway. That is something that's about to happen right now because the safety car is in the pit lane. The Ginettas are facing the starting gantry. The lights are red for now. When they go out, we're away in begin racing around the Snetterton 300 circuit. Off we go, and a brilliant start made by Louis Darling there. He pops out of line in car 25 and makes it 3 abreast with the 2 Elite Motorsport cars that shared the second row. He tries to go around the outside. There is contact though. Darling gets nerfed wide, and there's damage on Vladislav Tomanchek's car. That's an absolute disaster for the youngster who'd qualified so well. There is broken steering, I think, on that car. Well, the wheel's coming loose completely as he arrives at the Wilson hairpin, and his day is done pretty much before it starts, and he's now in danger of tangling with the front-running GT Academy cars. Look, that could have been absolute disaster. Miraculously, they avoided him, but Connor Blackburn in the 66 car had to take to the grass to avoid contact, and he loses positions as a result. Vladislav Tomanchuk then will tour back around to the pits. There's a big dive at Agostini. That was Jamie Cordell for third. He didn't really get the car stopped, but he might yet come out of the corner with the position. There's contact on corner exit. That was with Harry Gamble, who started third and will regain third position through Hamilton Corner. A very lively opening half a lap. Drivers knowing just how important it is to make early progress. It can be tricky to overtake around the Snetterton 300 circuit, and so drivers really on their toes on this opening lap to try and make some early ground. So down the back straight we go, the Bentley straight. The leader is still Antrobus then. It is Felix Livesey who holds on to second position. The real drama is what was going on behind. Harry Gamble back to third, Cordell fourth, and James Nicholas fifth. And that's the battle for the lead in the AM category. So Jamie Cordell and James Nicholas, the top 2 AM drivers, fourth and fifth in the train, absolutely nose to tail. Lewis Bylica has held on to the lead in GT Academy, whilst right behind him is Tom Walker. They are the 2 respective championship leaders. Tom Walker in GTA, Bylica in the rookie category, and they run first and second at the moment in the race as we come towards the completion of a breathless opening lap, and a few gaps appearing in the field as a result of some of the shenanigans through those first couple of corners. The lead gap is just a shade over 6.5 tenths, so Livesey living with Antrobus's pace for the time being, it would seem. There is the number 3 of Elliot Foster. Now, what of Cameron Pratt-Thompson, I hear you ask? Well, he is 7th in the 37 car. He's just behind this side-by-side battle, which sees Louis Darling slip to the inside of James Nicholas. That's for 5th position overall. And the next car behind these two is the current GT Championship leader, Cameron Pratt-Thompson, as James Nicholas very nearly runs into the back of Louis Darling, who just got ahead of him into the Wilson hairpin. James was keen to try and get that place back, but no room through the left-hander at Palmer's. Down into Agostini, way wide of the apex goes Louis Darling. Does that open the door for Nicholas? Not quite. Louis Darling showing what a lot of the drivers in the British GT qualifying sessions found, actually, that the track is not particularly high in grip right now. It's very warm, very humid here this afternoon at Snetterton. The track conditions are therefore not ideal. A cooler track, generally speaking, tends to yield more grip. It's also incredibly dusty in the area. We've had little to no rain, really, for the last couple of months here in the south of England. And so dry, dusty conditions. If anyone runs wide onto the grass, they will kick a load of dust onto the circuit, and that will not be helping the grip levels either. Everyone, for now, though, keeping the cars between the white lines vaguely, at least. The number 3 car heads towards us there. Lucy Hodgson, the last of the GT Championship drivers, and then Lewis Bylica with, at the end of the opening lap, a 1-second lead over Tom Walker. Is that still a second? I'd say maybe a fraction less as they approach Brundle and Nelson for the second time. The E3 Sport driver, Tom Walker, who has a 25-point cushion over Joseph Ostoltov in the GTA class championship in GT Academy. If you're new to Ginetta racing and you're wondering why I'm saying there are 2 classes within the GT Academy Championship, that's because the rookies have a class of their own. The GTA class drivers are the more experienced drivers, and in that class you score points based on your class position. In the GT Championship, though, whether you're a pro or an AM, you score points based on overall finishing positions, so slight differences in the scoring mechanisms between the 2 series, and that's why within the GT Championship in particular, you do see a lot of these battles between the pro and the AM drivers. Take Louis Darling versus James Nicholas, for example. Darling getting past Nicholas was worth genuine championship points, even though they run in different classes. We're back on board then with Nicholas as we head towards the Agostini hairpin. And I'd say we, along with Louis Darling ahead of us, are catching Jamie Cordell now. So the leader of the AMs, in the number 51 car, He had a very lively opening lap of the race. Is about to have another lively second half of the third lap, I reckon, because Louis Darling looks quicker than him. And he's closing in now on the third place car as they head onto the Bentley Straight. Nice battle there within the GT Academy field. Will Fallon, number 30, nipping up the inside of Ian Beaumont, number 13. The SVG Motorsport driver just about hangs on to fourth position overall. Beaumont second of the rookies at the moment, so Ian Beaumont going well in the rookie category. He is second in the rookie championship, 15 points ahead of Ben Wiseman, who currently sits third in the rookie championship and third in class in the race. The timing tower on the left-hand side of the screen, the white numbers are the rookies, the gold, orangey gold numbers are the GTA class drivers. At the top half of the timing tower, there we go, right on cue, the white background numbers within the GT championship and the pros, the orange backgrounds are the AMs to help you keep on top of what's going on in the various classes. At the moment, we still have this pro car separating the AM leaders in the GT portion of the race. Caudle and Nicholas separated by the charging Louis Darling, who started sixth, popped out to the outside line very early into Rich's corner, and that looked as though it was going to pay dividends, but just couldn't quite find room. Got tapped sideways, didn't spin, but lost some ground, and he's now having a wild lunge at the back of Jamie Caudle's car into the Wilson hairpin. Jamie, to be fair, that was good driving from Caudle. He didn't panic, as perhaps less experienced drivers would have done. Jamie may be in the AM class, but he's got a few seasons of Ginetta racing under his belt now. One of many drivers in this championship to have progressed through the GT Academy series up into the GT Championship proper. And Caudle with the lead of the AMs at the moment. Caudle 7th in points in the GT Championship, but it's all very tight really for 4th on back, so race by race that could start to change. And of course he's running nicely in 4th place in the race, but Louis Darling wants to relieve him of that 4th position. He's starting to ask some serious questions now. The number 51 driver heading on to the back straight. We're on board with James Nicholas. Grandstand view of the two cars battling ahead. The 4th, 5th and 6th place cars nose to tail. Cameron Pratt-Thompson, championship leader, is catching this group. He was 4/10 quicker than James Nicholas, with whom we ride on board there. You can just see Cameron Pratt-Thompson in the grey, blue and orange car. There, number 37. Championship leader with the vinyl detail sponsorship, and there you see confirmation. On the last 2 laps, he's been quicker than James Nicholas ahead. James sort of getting stuck at the same pace as Caudle and Darling ahead of him. And he's bringing Alex Duncan with him, so there is potential for this to change, and it needs to change, really, for Cameron Pratt-Thompson, because his championship rival, William Antrobus, is leading the way. He's got the fastest lap, which is worth a bonus point, and he's just extended his lead to 1.5 seconds over Felix Livesey. So an Antrobus win looks like it could be on the cards, and Cameron Pratt-Thompson has got to try and limit their damage wherever possible. Cameron is dropping a total of 38 points, sorry, from his 2 worst finishes so far this year. What's going to happen meanwhile at the Agostini hairpin? A solo spin for Alan Wright, whose 77 car thankfully didn't stall and was able to continue on its way, but Alan Wright will drop to the tail end of the field as a result of that moment. Yeah, drop scores for Pratt-Thompson, as I said, are some 38 points. However, 46 points are being dropped by William Antrobus, because remarkably, one of his worst finishes of the year is a 2nd place. He's been remarkably consistent. If he were to have a disastrous race between now and the end of the season, he would score back the 30 points that he scored for a 2nd place finish earlier in the year. So the pressure is more on Cameron Pratt-Thompson, really, to not have to lean into those drop scores. Antrobus has a little bit less pressure on his shoulders in that regard. Beautiful sound the V8 engines make as they thunder down the Bentley Straight. There are the leaders, and this the battle for 4th. This does look as though it's going to ignite at some point. Louis Darling, having caught Jamie Caudle, has been applying near constant pressure, but is yet to make a telling move. Nicholas, though, on this lap, dropping away from those two, so Pratt-Thompson really needs to get on with this. If he feels he's got the pace to get past James Nicholas, he needs to do it now before these two get any further away. Darling closing right in on Caudle into Murray's corner, which was reprofiled all those years ago when the 300 circuit was created on the infield of the Snetterton layout. that final corner reprofiled as well as part of that redevelopment, in theory, to encourage more overtaking. It hasn't necessarily worked out that way. It's a brave driver who launches one up the inside into the last corner. Maybe a little bit too early in the race for those sort of antics for Louis Darling. The Wilson hairpin is a much better prospect. Is he close enough? He thinks he might be. Gets to the inside, into the hairpin, forces Caudle to leave the door open. Cameron Pratt-Thompson's gone for a similar move on James Nicholas. That has worked, so Pratt-Thompson up a position, and Darling significantly couldn't find a way past Jamie Caudle, and so Caudle hangs on to fourth, but Pratt-Thompson is back into the top half dozen. Downhill we head into Agostini. Is Darling going to have another lunge? Answer, well, he thought about it, but no, not quite close enough. That little jink to the inside, though, spooked Caudle ever so slightly, and Jamie didn't make friends with the apex as a result. There's no change of the position, though. And every corner that they battle, every defensive move made by Caudle is going to delay them and bring Cameron Pratt-Thompson onto their tail. It's already been a good recovery drive, this, for Cameron. From 9th on the grid to 6th, but he can see 4th, and every point is going to count in this championship battle. James Nicholas now in danger of losing second place in class. This, meanwhile, is Connor Blackburn alongside Ian Beaumont. This for third position in the GT Academy race, and Beaumont is going to go through. Blackburn slams the door in the face of the number 30 car of Will Fallon. But Ian Beaumont up into the top 3 overall. Connor Blackburn, who started on the front row, will be disappointed with this. Behind, big dive from Joseph Astoltov as well to the inside of Will Fallon. That's for class position as well, third in the GTA class. And he may yet gain more positions. Blackburn's car does not look that happy at the moment. It's not really turning in quite as aggressively as he would like. He's missing a few apexes, and that will be music to the ears of Joseph Astoltov, who I said had a little bit of an off-colour qualifying session, but is starting now to make up for that, picking his way through the GTA field. 8 minutes then of this first Ginetta race of the weekend to go, and this is the battle for second in the Ginetta GT Championship. Felix Livesey has held on to that second place since the start. That's where he started the race, on the outside of row 1. Harry Gamble behind him started third and runs still in third position, but has never been more than a couple of car lengths off the rear bodywork of the number 31 car. This scrap, meanwhile, has all the hallmarks of another battle that will run right to the checkered flag. Gamble closing up on Livesey. You don't know where to look, do you? Let's focus on fourth place for now, with Caudle not choosing to defend that time into Agostini. They're all back together again, aren't they now? So Pratt-Thompson has caught them. Nicholas and Duncan have closed back in as well. It's a 5-way fight now for fourth. And as I said, in the GT Championship, every position matters, regardless of class. So Alex Duncan diving to the inside of James Nicholas is of significance. There's contact, and the E3 Sport driver is elbowed out wide. That was actually for second in the AM class anyway. And for 7th position overall, Alex Duncan goes through, but James Nicholas, I'm fairly certain, will have some opinions on the manner in which he went through. There was definitely paint traded. James Nicholas is plummet down through the order continues. He had a really bright start to the race, moving his way from 7th to 5th, I think, and now he's back down to where he started. About 4th, I think he ran at one point. So maybe a few tweaks to be made to the car. That was someone off the road up ahead. We'll get to that in a moment. This was the replay of Duncan elbowing his way past James Nicholas down at Agostini. But I think Louis Darling's just been off the road just as we cut away. We'll get to that in a moment. Here's the Nicholas onboard view. Sort of half covers the inside line, but there is still a gap. There's the bang in the door, and Alex Duncan appears in front of us. Now, what's going on at the front? The leading trio are still in the same order. It's the group behind where I think there might have been a change. Yes, there has. Cameron Pratt-Thompson is ahead of Louis Darling. And Darling's front bodywork looks a little bit loose on the right front corner. I think just as we cut away to that replay, the Orion SPR car was heading for the weeds, and he's lost a position as a result. So Cameron Pratt-Thompson's brilliant rise through the order continues, and he's now to the tail of Jamie Caudle for 4th position. Black and white warning flag, meanwhile, for Harry Gamble for exceeding track limits. That's only a warning for now. No penalty incoming unless he does it again. So he continues to pursue Felix Livesey for 2nd position. Round Hamilton go the leaders. Caudle, though, about to face the fight of his life here for 4th position, as Cameron Pratt-Thompson ranges up behind him. So Cameron 5th, his main championship rival, William Antrobus, leads the race. Harry Gamble, as I said at the start of the race, is third in the points. He's on 175 points to Cameron Pratt-Thompson's 212. So Gamble really could do with getting past Felix Livesey. He's trying everything he can to make that a reality, but just couldn't quite find a gap into Brundle. He's forced Livesey offline, though. Watch for the switch back here into the bomb hole. Is there a gap on the inside line? No, not quite. Felix Livesey just had it covered, but Harry Gamble is giving this a really concerted effort now to get past the Orion SPR car and move up into second place. This will be worth a valuable extra handful of championship points. 3 championship points difference, I seem to recall, between second and third places. Oh, huge slide though for Gamble, and that will lose him all of his momentum onto the centre straight. And that means he's not now close enough to apply pressure into the first corner. That was a brilliant sequence, though, of defensive driving for Livesey and really attacking driving for Gamble. In the end, though, positions stay unchanged. Losing James Nicholas off the back of this group, aren't we? There is the 99 driver who made his debut in Ginetta Racing a couple of seasons ago in GT Academy. This his first season racing the big V8-powered GT Championship cars. Oh, and a spin for Damien Duffy down at Agostini. Now, Damien was battling with Alan Wright, who I seem to recall spinning at the same corner a handful of laps ago. They were only a tenth and a half apart at the start of the lap. Whether that means there was contact between the two of them, I'm not sure, but the signs are there, aren't they? The signs are all pointing towards another dominant Lewis Bylicker performance here in the GT Academy portion of the race. He leads the rookie class, he leads overall. Tom Walker was at the start of the lap nearly 2.7 seconds adrift. And in both of the first 2 sectors, Lewis has been a tenth or so quicker than him. Bylicker, the PT Autosports driver, is pretty untouchable in this GT Academy Championship this year. And looks set to extend his margin over Ian Beaumont in the Rookie Championship by another 5 points or so. Beaumont currently second in class, but some 6, nearly 7 seconds behind the race leader. Now, what can Cameron Pratt-Thompson do about Jamie Cordell? This is a move worth making if he can do so safely. What he absolutely can't afford to do, though, is have contact with Cordell that could end his race. He's got to at least limit the damage in this race, finish, score some points, and hopefully bounce back in the later race in the weekend. But it's going to be a tough ask to find a way past Cordell. Cordell's car, though, is wriggling around out of Murray's, so maybe starting to run out of rear tyres on such a hot day in such powerful and heavy cars, which all run with very little aero as well, these new GT Championship G56s. Very limited front and rear aero, they move around a lot, it's easy to overheat those tyres, and I wonder if that's something Cordell is just running into. Don't count out a move from Louis Darling here against Pratt-Thompson, though. Darling will be really disappointed to have dropped back behind the 37 car. All sliding around, in fairness, coming off the low-speed corners. Such a technically demanding circuit, the Snetterton 300 layout. These low to medium speed corners on the infield, you've got to be very, very precise. Very smooth drivers tend to prevail here at Snetterton. And it's very easy, as you can imagine, to spin up those rear tyres and aggravate them, meaning you're more likely to make mistakes further down the line. They were all well over the exit curve out of Agostini. But if anything, Pratt-Thompson dropping away slightly now. Meanwhile, traffic starting to come into play, and that is the Alan Wright car that had the spin a moment or two ago. Or in fact a few laps ago, wasn't it, Alan Wright's rotation. He just got in between the second and third place cars there. That's delayed Gamble and perhaps allowed Felix Livesey off the hook a little bit. There is the leader, William Antrobus. We haven't really seen a lot of him. He has been controlling the race nicely, managing now more than a 4-second advantage over the Livesey Gamble scrap for second. Fight for fourth, though, is still the one that looks most likely to change and could be decided by a little moment in traffic. I think there will be a couple of other GT Academy cars for them to lap before the flag, maybe. They're certainly going to catch Alan Wright. They have caught Alan Wright, and in the worst possible spot through Coram into Murray's. Caudle goes on the inside, but he's got it all wrong. He's on the grass, and Cameron Pratt-Thompson will get the run. In fact, Louis Darling gets the run on the pair of them. They're three abreast past the pits, to the inside Caudle, to the outside Darling, and the championship leader is stuck in the middle. Cameron Pratt-Thompson, this is his worst nightmare. He looks over to his right, Darling goes through on his left, Caudle sends it into Rich's corner, again can't make the apex, and Louis Darling, with some brilliant reactionary driving, is going to gain 2 positions in 1. Through he goes from 6th to 4th. Fabulous racing, and now Cameron Pratt-Thompson gets himself alongside Caudle as well. That's the outside though for the left-hander at Palmer's. Going to go right round the outside. That's brave for the championship leader to be doing. He's afforded, in fairness, plenty of space by Jamie Caudle, something that he doesn't really pay him back with on the run down into Agostini. They're leaning on each other into the braking zone. Oh, and there's so nearly contact between them. Caudle will not give this position up, and he's under absolutely no obligation to do so. They might be running in different classes, but this is all worth championship points for the pair of them, and Caudle really defended that well. His car is all over the place. The rear tyres, I think, are a little bit warmer than they want to be, but he is going to defend this on what is the final lap of the race, right the way until the checkered flag. So, brilliant racing. Louis Darling read that situation perfectly. I had a feeling that Alan Wright's GT Academy car might have a part to play in all of this, and indeed it did, with that little fumble for Caudle at the final turn, opening the door for Louis Darling to get back to that 4th position, well, in fact, up to 4th position. That's the highest he's run in this race. He was knocking on the door of it before that grassy moment midway through. So Cameron Pratt-Thompson then running out of opportunities to get past Jamie Caudle. At the head of the field though, William Antrobus is already turning into Murray's for the final time. He may well pass one more GT Academy car on the run to the flag. He might not bother though. He can afford to lift off the throttle because he's got a big lead, and he is now on course for a win. He's got the #1 pointing into the air. He wins here in the Ginetta GT Championship at Snetterton. Second position will go to Felix Livesey ahead of Harry Gamble, whilst Louis Darling, with a brilliant last lap overtake, goes from 6th to 4th ahead of Cameron Pratt-Thompson. Jamie Caudle and Cameron Pratt-Thompson. Caudle, the winner of the AM category. James Nicholas comes through. He'll be 3rd in that class. And then we wait for Lewis Bylicker, who is over half a lap behind, actually. He's only now exiting the Agostini hairpin on his way towards Hamilton. And more importantly, on his way towards another race win and an extension of his championship lead. It's been a fabulous season, this, for the racing newbie, who has done a lot of sim racing in the past, but brand new to circuit racing this year, and choosing the Ginetta GT Academy Championship to learn his craft in. Well, there's not a lot more to learn, you'd have to say. Would be fascinating, wouldn't it, to see how he got on in one of the faster GT Championship cars. But for now, he is focused entirely on winning this GT Academy Championship, the rookie class, the one that he has entered into. Tom Walker, in fairness, 2nd position, a distant 2nd place, just under 4 seconds back, but he's on course for a GTA class win, which, within the GT Academy portion of the race, is all that really matters. And he is, like Lewis Bylicker, going to extend his championship lead over his nearest rival. Both of these drivers have actually scored the exact same number of points, 178 points so far this season for both Lewis Bylicker and Tom Walker, scored within different classes, and they're going to stay on the same amount of points, I suspect, after this one. Lewis Bylicker heads to the line. He's going to win the GT Academy race here at Snetterton, and in typically dominant fashion, the checkered flag waves for Lewis, with Tom Walker coming home to win the GTA class and finish 2nd overall within that part of the race. Ian Beaumont is 3rd, but 2nd of the rookies, and Joseph Astoltov 4th, is 2nd of the GTA class drivers ahead of Connor Blackburn. Connor will be a little frustrated with that, I think, having started on the front row. But really, things started unravelling for him from the 2nd corner of the race when he came across the damaged car of Vladislav Tomanchuk. So, cars then arrive down in the pit lane, and William Antrobus will head to Parc Fermé, a race winner in the GT Championship, and he will score maximum points from that race. Pole position, win, fastest lap. He was only 8 points behind Cameron Pratt-Thompson coming into the race. It will all depend a little bit on whether a 6th place finish is a dropped score for Cameron. We'll get that confirmed between now and race 2 tomorrow. But what we can tell you is that William Antrobus wins by 2.7 seconds and will, if not be in the lead, certainly knocking on the door of the championship lead after that race. Felix Livesey second, ahead of Harry Gamble and Louis Darling. Jamie Cordell is the AM-class winner in 5th, ahead of Cameron Pratt-Thompson, the overall championship leader. Alex Duncan, James Nicholas, Elliot Foster and Lucy Hodgson complete the GT Championship runners. Lewis Bylicker wins in GT Academy and claims another rookie win to boot, with Tom Walker winning the GTA class. Ian Beaumont is on the overall podium, ahead of Joseph Stoltov and Connor Blackburn. Then it was Will Fallon, Ben Wiseman, Ash Young, Faye Goff and Alan Wright to complete the top 10 finishes in GT Academy. Damien Duffy, like Alan Wright, had a spin in that race. He finished 11th, with Vladislav Tomanchuk the only non-finisher after that really unfortunate turn 1 contact that damaged the left front corner. So the GT Championship and GT Academy drivers will be back out again tomorrow here at Snetterton. We've got one more race to come your way this afternoon from Snetterton, the Ginetta Juniors out next. Let's take a look first back at the highlights of our first Ginetta racing action of the weekend. The first Ginetta GT Championship and GT Academy race of the weekend started with a bang. 3 abreast into the first corner, was always likely to end in tears. Louis Darling popped to the outside of Vladislav Tomanchuk, who then had contact from Jamie Cordell. The 3 of them clattered together, and unfortunately it was the 73 car that came out worse with damage. William Antrobus held on to the early lead from pole position, whilst Tomanchuk's damaged car would then become a bit of a nuisance for the leaders in GT Academy, with Connor Blackburn one of those who lost ground as a result. Jamie Cordell had lost 3rd position in the opening exchanges, tried to get it back down at Agostini, and then lent on Harry Gamble on the run towards Hamilton. Gamble eventually got through and set off after the leaders. GT Academy battles were as fierce as always, with Lewis Bylicker, the championship leader, gaining an early advantage and immediately starting to pull away. Not quite so fortunate though was Alan Wright, who had a solo spin halfway through the race. Connor Blackburn, having started on the front row, was slipping down the order. Ian Beaumont there getting past him on the way out of Palmer's, whilst Felix Livesey was desperately trying to hang on to 2nd position ahead of a charging Harry Gamble. There was further drama in the GT Academy field down at Agostini. A little bit of a touch maybe sent Damien Duffy spinning off the nose of Alan Wright's car. Jamie Cordell had been defending 4th place in the GT Championship brilliantly all race, but stumbled over Alan Wright's car that was being lapped and lost some ground as well. William Antrobus the winner then in GT Academy. Lewis Bylicker gains another victory in GT Academy here at Snetterton. So a fantastic start to our Ginetta racing this weekend. As I said, we've got more Ginetta racing coming up soon with the juniors. Until tomorrow though, that's it for the Ginetta GT Championship and GT Academy.